Welcome, everyone. After a 2-week hiatus from Live with Mr. Linder, we are back with a vengeance with two of my favorite administrators of Norwalk Catholic School, Mrs. Reynolds and Mrs. Englert.
Hello.
So, ladies, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We're going to get into some reasons why we have a new decoration here. We're going to talk about opening school. But before we do all of that, I'd like to begin with prayer. So we're going to say the Our Father, and at home I'd ask you to join us as well. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the Father, and the Son, and the
Holy Spirit. Amen.
So there's been a lot of work that you have been a part of over the last, since March 16th.
Yes.
When our worlds were all turned upside down. And that work continues. And what I know you have been doing is some great engagement with staff. And we're beginning some engagement with parents. We've done our survey.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about just that experience of reaching out and trying to make sure we still keep our school community strong?
Well, and I think that's what's most important is the communication and making sure that we're all on the same page and working with staff and, having staff meetings, reaching out and talking to parents and even creating the parent focus group that we're going to be working with next week. That is so important to just, I think, keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward with what our goals are for reopening school.
I think one of the positives is always giving the parents a voice. Just maybe it's not what they end up wanting or what they ended up expecting, but at least that they were heard. Or sometimes you're surprised by how the outcome comes, and some parents want different things. But giving a voice, and then doing the focus groups are going to be huge. For our specific buildings. So.
And I think that with the parent survey, it was so wonderful to hear all of those responses, because with that kind of information, it's data driven that we know what direction we want to go.
And it's important. Our school, we have to reflect our community, and we have to be pillars of our faith. We have to be examples for our students. So we heard that loud and clear, and we know we're better together as Catholics to learn, to pray, to grow together. So we're working on a plan that we think is going to be safe. It's going to allow us those opportunities and is sound educationally. So you kind of have to pick all of that stuff across a continuum. So I think that's what we're working towards. So
yes,
I don't normally have notes, but there's a lot to go over today because while we don't have a formal plan to share with you at this moment, we do have some guiding principles as we enter the focus group phase with each of our buildings, and I want to share, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the things I want to articulate to you is our goal. Our goal in our reopening is to maintain as much as safely possible the typical face-to-face, in-person learning experience in the classroom. So that's a big goal. We want to be extremely safe, but we want to maintain our in-person learning, face-to-face, every day. So as we try to maintain and hold that as our guiding principle, we're going to have to do a lot of things differently. And each building is going to look different. And it's these building leaders that are going to help guide that. So some of the things that we're doing right now to prepare. We have hand sanitizing stations, and that's our example. We've had some volunteers come in and help build these stations for us. We actually, I'm going to demonstrate, not that we don't know how this all works, but we just get some hand sanitizer. It's foam. which I think is good for our kids. I know I have young children, and that liquid, clear liquid stuff seems to get more on the floor than it does on their hands.
It does.
So we have these stations actually right now at entrances. If you were to come in to a building, you would see those and have that opportunity. We're going to have things mounted to walls in classrooms. This will be at entrances. We'll have them in hallways. So people have an opportunity. Kids will have the opportunity, expectation to sanitize and keep their hands clean and free of the virus. We're also updating things in the restrooms to ensure proper distancing. So we're putting up some acrylic dividers between sinks so that when you are washing your hands, you can't splash and get any kind of droplet or something in someone else's hand. And some other things in the boys' restrooms that, those of you who are boys know that we need to separate
Yes,
some of those
every other
spaces.
urinal and those kinds of things will be turned off so that we can keep them separate from one another. And even with the restrooms, limiting how many kids would go in at a time. So lots of things we're looking at.
And while we're on the topic of restrooms, you have some developments in your building.
I do. It's very exciting. We have brand new restrooms going into the annex building for grades 1, 2, and 3. And it is coming along awesome. I went over the other day and checked everything out, and it's absolutely beautiful in there. The restrooms are going to be such a wonderful upgrade for the kids in that building, and just so much more room. And I'm so excited about that. So you wouldn't think you'd get that excited about restrooms, but I love our school, and I think that's awesome. So
It is, and
it's because of all of you and the Soaring campaign and all of the wonderful help from that. So thank you.
It's definitely gonna allow us to be healthier.
Yes.
Even because of this, even without this going on, it would improve that. And it is not like a fresh coat of paint and new toilets.
Oh no.
The floor got torn out. They had to pour new floors, run new plumbing.
I've checked in periodically on the construction, and I'll never forget the day I walked in and they had like a little skid steer and a dirt floor. I mean, this is down to the bare walls, new wiring, everything. I mean, it's amazing.
And long overdue.
Oh yeah.
But that's a very big positive preparation. We're working at we have bottle filling stations in the high school, junior high now. We're working on getting those in the elementary ECC. So a bottle filling station, essentially you attach it to your drinking fountain. We will not allow kids to take drinks out of drinking fountains. They'll have to have bottles. We want them to fill up their own bottle. That way there's no mouth droplets on drinking fountains and things. So that's a big, important step. Sanitization of frequently touched surfaces. We're going to have an electrostatic sprayers that we'll use throughout the day and every night. And then each staff member will have another little show and tell. We'll have a bottle like this. This actually has sanitization solution in it. It's clear. They will be labeled very clearly. This is just an example. And then you can sanitize surfaces. You can see it's very fine mist, very fine spray. I'm not going to spray either of you.
Thank you.
But you get the idea that this will allow us to sanitize commonly touched surfaces throughout the day as well. And then we have a more rigorous process at the end of the day with electrostatic sprayers.
What's nice about those is it's almost like an aerosol mist, and we've been using those after mass to clean the pews, and it really gets the particles of the cleaning solution everywhere. I mean, it's a nice, thorough clean.
Which is important.
Absolutely.
And along with cleaning, we're also doing a deep clean of our buildings. So that's very important that we're getting down deeper and doing that clean, because you have to start with a clean base to sanitize on top of that. So that's been going on, and they're doing a great job with that. So I think there was a question. I don't want to miss it. Will school be opening full-time 5 days per week? Do either one of you want to take that one?
I mean, that's our plan.
That's our plan.
That's what we have to do.
We are planning to open Monday through Friday, every day. And our top priority is student health and safety. And I think that at this point, with the children being out, by the time we go back to school, it'll be nearly 6 months that the kids have been out of school. And for someone who absolutely loves education and school, that is far, far too long. especially just simply from the social emotional learning aspect. So we are so excited and looking forward to having these kids back. But with that being said, it's going to be in a safe and healthy environment for them to come back to. We've done many hours of due diligence and planning that's gone into this.
What people, I'm sure most people realize, but I always like to highlight. I have young children that go to our school and will continue to do that. You have children, one has already graduated, one will be a senior going to our school, and then two others, and you have your family going to our school. We are uniquely positioned as leaders of our school to ensure it is as safe as humanly possible. Because I know I love my children more than life itself, and you ladies do as well. And we would not put our children in danger, nor would we ask anyone else to do that under our leadership. So
Correct.
let that be, I can't give you a better endorsement
Sure.
than their own family, our own children. And we have them at all buildings.
We truly do.
We do.
ECC all the way through senior and high school. That is something that as a mom, you know it as a mom, nothing against you because you're not a mom, but you know, when you have kids, they're like your right arm, and you would never do anything to harm them or put them in harm's way. And I'm sending all of my children here because I have the confidence in what we have put together for reopening.
And then we continue to do that work, right? We are confident where our goal is. We feel good about some of these components we're going to be sharing with you here right now, and that we believe in our school community to make the best choices and the safe choices for our
Absolutely.
kids.
And for each parent, I know it's a decision of their own. But from what we've been working with and planning, that, you know, it's just conveying how we feel. But
Absolutely. So I know a huge question that people have been asking are these things that we're wearing, these face coverings. What's required, what's not required? Well, what I'm ready to share with you is that face coverings will be required, but it's going to be based on a few different things. It's going to be based on how old is the student, and is it appropriate for them to wear a mask, and are they able?
and dependent upon the activity.
It's going to be dependent on the activity. It's going to be dependent on the location. Are we outside? Are we able to maintain certain amounts of social distancing? So let's say, for example, you have one class of 20 kids outside at the ECC grass area of the playground. Probably not going to have masks on for that because they can keep their distance and they'll be safe. And the amount of distancing available at the time. So we decided, you know, it's important for us to model what we expect. We obviously aren't 3 feet, 6 feet apart, and we're talking closely to one another. So it's important for us as adults, our age says we have the ability to wear masks and it's safe. So this is why in this activity, in this situation, we are, you know, if we were students, we're wearing masks. All adults will be wearing masks. That's a mandate from the governor. So that will be the case. I shouldn't say mask, I'm saying face coverings. You know, whether that be a face shield or some other fancy way of making sure that droplets from your mouth aren't being spread out. So
That's the most important thing, is just covering.
just Lord knows I can't determine what all the future things may be. There might be some fancy scarf thing designed that people are all going to want to wear. I don't know, but yes, that's going to be dependent on a few things, and what the science tells us is safe.
Yes.
You know, so certain activities, singing, for example, you know, they say that can have more droplets. So might be silly to say, but if we're singing, maybe we're wearing masks.
Sure.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit, ladies, about, one other thing I forgot to mention about face masks. People had asked me, like, is there going to be certain requirements? Do you have to buy a school mask, or does it be a certain color? The only thing that we're going to hold people for face coverings is they have to be appropriate and respectful. So don't, you know, I hope people understand what that means, but we don't want to have any it should be obvious, inappropriate imagery on these masks. But if someone comes to school with a Curious George mask and that's because they love Curious George, that seems appropriate to me. So that type of thing, we're going to be. I know my children like certain things, and when we have them wear masks as parents, when we choose to do that, it's easier when they get to pick out
Oh, yes.
the mask and the material or the face covering and all of that. So why don't you ladies talk a little bit about the cohort idea that we're going to be implementing at your buildings?
Yeah, sure. So our idea is that the students would stay with their grade level and with their class that they're with, for as much as possible. And, with bringing specialist teachers for kindergarten, specialist teachers would come into the classroom, opposed to maybe going to a different area. That way they're using the same supplies in the same classroom and not moving around the building, disrupting other areas. That way there, something would happen with the class, it would be contained within that class. So.
Yeah. And the same with the elementary. Each class will be within their classroom with their teacher. If it's a grade level where the class is switched to another teacher for a different subject, instead of the students switching, we will have the teachers be switching back and forth. So the whole goal is to keep them with their own pod or cohort of students throughout the entire day, because then that also enables us for contact tracing if that would need to be, God forbid, we hope not, but that there's many different factors and decisions that went into that. But for the entire school day, they'll be with their own class of students. I've also had people ask about recess and different things, and obviously going through the entire plan would be more time consuming than I have here, but recess will definitely be included as a specials class, and the kids will have it every day. I know I've heard some concerns from some parents that they might not have it, and that is not the case at all.
But recess might be at 9:30 in the morning.
Recess would not be around lunch anymore. It will be scheduled as a specials class with teachers taking them out to recess or having indoor recess if weather's inclement. But it'll definitely be, I feel very strongly about the kids having that brain break and having that time to, blow off some steam and get some gross motor going.
Absolutely. And again, this goes back to our goal. There's a lot of things that are going to look different because we're trying to maintain the classroom.
Yes.
The classroom learning. So, recess might not be attached to lunch. So that looks different. That looks and feels different, but you still get it.
Yes.
So, there's kind of this give and take with this
Sure.
next school experience.
Yes, for the health and safety, that compensation, that back and forth give and take is necessary. And like you said earlier, it's going to look different, but the main goal is that the classroom environment is as normal to the kids as possible.
And so then for the junior high school, we're not able to do necessarily the cohort idea in the same way. So we're going to try to do our best to maximize room spaces. So there's more kids in the class, they get a bigger classroom for that period to ensure proper social distancing. And we're also minimizing transitions. So there'll be some changes to the schedule we normally have an 8-period day. We're going to spread that out potentially over 2 days. So there's only 4 transitions a day. Trying to keep kids out of the halls and in groups and things. And when there is transitions, I feel comfortable saying this for the high school and junior high, everyone's masking up. Everyone's masking up, and that's what I'm talking about, the activity and the location. If there's possibility of you coming in contact with people outside of the cohort that you're with, you're going to be wearing that protection for sure. So I have been asked a few times, what can we do to help school get ready? How can I at home support the opening of school? The short answer is everyone needs to stay healthy. If you stay healthy and your family stays healthy and we send healthy people to school, we will be much better. So those recommendations that we hear time and time again still hold true, and I encourage everyone to continue to do them at home. Stay home when sick. Avoid close contact with those who are sick. Wash your hands regularly. Avoid touching your face, eyes, and mouth. Wear a mask out in public. By you staying healthy and you keeping your family healthy, that allows us to bring healthy people to school. So that's really important. We're going to be monitoring at school before people come in. We're going to be monitoring temperatures, temperature checks, and we're going to make sure that people are meeting those COVID guidelines. Nothing's foolproof, but that's going to be one of they talk about the multi-layers of protection, right? So we're going to have multi-layers of protections here. We at least are demonstrating 2 of them now, wearing masks and a hand sanitizer, right? There's 2 levels of protection with that. I also want people to know that we are going to, once school starts, we're doing this now with athletics, but once school starts, we will be monitoring school families' health. So if a student contracts COVID or comes in direct contact with someone who has COVID, you will not be able to return to school or a school function until you are cleared. Again, if you or your child gets COVID or someone comes in direct contact, you will be home until you're cleared to come back and return to activity. Because of this, we are also offering, we're sticking with 5 days a week in person, but some people might have to stay home. We want you to stay home when you're sick. So we have a remote access option for our classrooms for students who are unable to be at school. This will be done through the Google Classroom. This is very different than what we did this spring. I want to be clear. This is very different than what we did. Because with this remote learning option, access, it will provide the child access to the teacher as the teacher's teaching, as well as allow the students to engage with the teacher to support their learning. That's really important. Students will have access to the teacher teaching and be able to ask questions and be a part of that learning. Even in-person classroom, we have done leaps and bounds with technology during this time with expanding Chromebooks, increasing internet speeds on campus. Our staff is working on getting Google certified. Many of them have accomplished that. So we're going to, even when they're in person, assignments and things are going to be done through Google Classroom. So you're not going to miss an assignment if you have to access remotely, which is really a positive direction for technology. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yes.
And then, is that going to look different at the ECC?
Yes.
I absolutely believe it will have to, but they'll still have access.
Yep.
Right, and even in your younger elementary to upper elementary, it will have nuanced differences.
It'll be different with each teacher based on how they teach and the strategies that they utilize. But the base measure is that any new content will be put on that Google Classroom for each subject. So they will still be getting the content, whether they're in the classroom or at home.
I love the idea of reviewing it.
Yeah.
If you didn't understand it, you can go right back to the teacher. Parents not understanding how to explain it, go right back to how the teacher taught it.
Yes. And obviously we want the kids here and in class, but if they absolutely cannot due to quarantine or anything like that, then we are still providing that education for them, and that's what's most important.
Absolutely. And we have some questions here. Someone asked about, will there be bus transportation? Public schools, depending on where you live and the distance from our school, still have the same requirement as they always have for transportation. That being said, obviously there's some different things going on. The public schools are closed and we're open. I have to work through some of those things. But so I don't have a really good answer for you on that. The short answer would be yes. If that's what we've been having in the past, that's what we should expect going forward. But the practical answer is that's still to be worked through on a district by district, family by family, in conjunction with us thing. What if your child cannot wear a mask? That is something that we're working through now as part of our focus groups and plan development. So I don't have a good answer for that yet. That might vary too, based on the age of the child, even if the requirement exists or not. So that there'll have to be some way of keeping everyone safe. So
Sure.
we're gonna figure that out.
And to that, that's why with the discussion talked about face coverings and not just masks, because if a mask would not be able to be worn, it could also be possibly a face shield, or there's many different options, but it's always something that we would look at on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and if definitely nothing can be on, we'll work through those things too.
Sure.
So that's that. Do we have a school nurse? We don't have a school nurse on staff. We contract with the Huron County Health Department to have access to school nursing, and they currently in the traditional school year, how that works is they come and help do our screenings and whatnot. And are also available to us via phone and in any type of emergency that we need. Our secretarial staff has all the training with.
I was gonna say,
medicines and stuff.
they think they're nurses because they do so much to help the kids, Grace and Maria and Natalie, they're second to a nurse, but,
Yeah, so yes, the spirit of that question is, do we have a full-time school nurse on staff? No, we don't. Do we have access to school nursing? Yes, but not in that full-time respect. So then our children in first grade going to wear masks also. We're working on, I'm not ready to say yes or no absolute to any of that. What I can tell you is for the younger kids, we're going to try to design a way that it's less frequent that they have to wear a mask.
and I think to that question, there are so many different changes happening weekly with the information that we're getting, and that's why we can't put a definite answer on it right now. And even once we have our plan in place, it'll be reevaluated very, very frequently so that we can make sure that we are doing exactly what the latest guidelines in science are telling us.
We're going to have to continue to be nimble, make adjustments as needed.
Very fluid situation.
So, yeah, great questions. I appreciate that. Will you be prioritizing teaching younger kids how to use computers and type in order to use the Google Classroom? I think that's an essential thing that we're going to have to do. I know we're normally thinking younger kids, but I think all of our kids at the beginning of the school year need to be trained how to do this, how to type, where to click, how to watch a video, or how to
access their email.
Yeah. So even from our youngest ECC kids, all the way, I've worked with older kids, and sometimes we assume they know the technology,
Sure.
Right.
but
Sure.
they don't learn it through osmosis. We have to teach them. So that's going to have to be part of our very first days of doing this. So are sports going to be back also, football, etc.? I don't know. Talk about things changing daily. I can't speak to that. I know we are following the guidelines and sanitization, and we're currently in our phase 2 of our sports and music programs, and I know the kids and coaches and band directors have been doing fantastic work of keeping people safe. We're doing constant communication on that, and I can tell you we are being very cautious because we understand our goal is to be safe and open school, and if we could have sports, that would be an amazing gift. So we want to be able to make sure everyone stays healthy. When we don't keep people healthy, that's when things change. Do I have any idea of how the clubhouse will be going forward? I don't have a lot of clarity on that at this time. Mrs. Reynolds and I have talked very periodically on this. Quite frankly, I'm hearing that there needs to be updates from Columbus on what's required for preschool and more prudently, the clubhouse. So we're keeping an eye on those guidelines. Everyone hears rumors. I understand that ODE, Job and Family Services, those are the people that oversee childcare, are working with the governor's office to revise those expectations. I think it would be logical that those are revised, but no one at Columbus has called me yet to ask me my opinion on that, so.
You know.
They probably don't have enough time, so I appreciate that. So someone says here, I work in a nursing facility and I already had an outbreak. Would my children be subject to quarantine if there was another outbreak? Your children would be quarantined if you, as the parent, have contracted COVID because they've come in direct contact with someone who has COVID. This becomes like some crazy like family tree idea, but those that are contacts, this is what I've learned from the health department. If you're a contact of a contact, meaning, I'm gonna try to use you ladies as an example. I have COVID. We have direct contact with one another. We don't. I'm gonna say Gail and I do not. Gail lives in a separate household. Well, I've never seen Gail. Melissa and I would be quarantined. But Melissa and Gail are friends. Gail would not be quarantined because she would be a contact of the contact. The craziness would be if Melissa shows signs of COVID within 14 days of being quarantined, then she's a contact. So I feel like I should be drawing on a whiteboard.
I know.
Yeah.
It's confusing, but
that's how that part works. Is there going to be Chromebooks available? That was not widely known. So right now, we confidently have Chromebooks available, grades 7 through 12. Everyone 7 through 12 will be given a Chromebook that they will be responsible for and can take home. Grades 4 through 6, we're working on. I think we're close to having a one-to-one
correct.
Opportunity for them, and they would only take them home if it was a necessary thing because of quarantine or something. Ideally, we want to have the 4 through 6 keep them in the building, but if for reasons that you're remote learning, that's obviously an exception. And we're working on funding to get us the rest of the way there for K through 3. So that's.
And K through 3 still has them in the building,
They do.
just not on a, we're close even there, but
We're
not on a
close, but
one-to-one.
we don't have one-to-one,
Not
but
one-to-one, no.
but we would have enough for
For
every kid K to 3
Right.
to have an experience on a Chromebook every day.
Yes.
We just can't assign it to Gail.
Yep.
We can't assign it to Melissa. So.
And
we're-
whenever anyone has utilized it, they will be sanitized. So that's something else for peace of mind as
Yes.
well. Any equipment like that or anything like that they would have people come in contact with. And typically they do have a number that they still use.
Yeah.
That is assigned to a student, but they will be sanitized.
Yeah, so there's another great question. If a student in the classroom contracts COVID, what happens to the whole classroom? So that whole classroom would be quarantined and we're doing remote learning. It's possible in our school community next year, depending on how the virus infiltrates, if we're unable to keep it at bay, that a building or a classroom will be quarantined and others will still be able to function. That is a possibility. We're hoping to do any type of quarantining on a case-by-case basis and to ensure that if we're allowed to open, we can open. Obviously, if it becomes widespread, then other decisions will be made. But if we have one case in a classroom, then we quarantine that group, and we've done a nice job keeping that group in their cohort in the elementary we should be able to isolate it. That's the theory, that's the work of keeping classes isolated.
Yes, that's what went into the planning, and that way we could remain open with other classrooms by keeping them within their own group.
Will outside groups be able to have meetings in the school still, Girl Scouts, Little Flowers, Lego Club? To be determined. The number one thing we're focused on is keeping our school safe and sanitized. So if we have to sacrifice some of that external stuff that we normally do, we may have to. I don't know. I'm not ready to say that yet. Publicly, things are changing. 24 hours ago, Huron County was a red county. We were all under mandate, and now we're orange. So things change that quickly. They can change good or bad that quickly. So we just need to be nimble. Will students eat in the cafeteria or classrooms? To be determined. That may be a mixture. We don't know. We're still working on those finer points. You guys have great questions. I wish I had better, more complete answers. But I guess if I had complete answers, I'd be rolling out the whole plan today. So, but yeah, keep the discussion going. And just know that we're working to design programs for that. And again, it might look different building by building, grade level by grade level. We've actually had a lot of conversations so far about cafeteria, about a lot of things, cafeteria being one of them.
Well, and that's the thing that we've done is take every aspect of their entire day, and we've evaluated and gone through every scenario that we could come up with at that time, and gone through everything from arrival, dismissal, mass, classroom, specials, all of it. And that's what we're continuing to look at.
Things will look different, but we will be together. That's the whole plan. So we're going to continue to engage families and medical professionals and staff, and just continue to learn ourselves. We're hoping to have the full plan released by July 30th. That's the date we've set for ourselves to do that. And I want to remind everybody, as I flip back to my notes, what our goal, what I stated at the very beginning, is to maintain as much as safely possible the typical face-to-face in-person learning experience in the classroom. That is our goal. Safety is always the number one priority. But we believe we can do it well. We're going to rise to the challenge, and we will not hesitate to keep people safe.
Absolutely.
So, is there anything else you ladies would like to add? Oh wait, there was a question here, sorry. Will the cafeteria drop-off in the AM still be available? We're looking into that. We kind of have a general sketch of what arrival will look like at the elementary, high school, ECC. We're not quite ready to share because there's going to be tweaks. So we are aware that families need flexibility for drop-off times too. So but we also need to make sure that people are checking. We have to check every adult and screen every adult before they come to work. We have to screen every child before they enter the building. So that's quite the undertaking. So we're working on that. Will start times stay the same or be grouped by families? So far, our plan is to keep start times the same. But again, there's still some movement on things. So I don't want to give you a rubber stamp right away. And I see Tracy, I will absolutely be in contact with you because I do need vendors for those things. So I will absolutely reach out to you. Thank you. Because that was on my list to do. So we're going to work to get those things. So continue to follow our social media. We're going to be putting some stuff in the bulletin about ways you can help. If you want to make homemade masks or make a donation, help us get more Chromebooks.
I was going to say, can we go over the list of things that we could use for?
Yeah, I actually, it's on my board over there. So I talk about the need that if people have the ability and would like to donate homemade masks, both adult sizes and kid sizes. Purchasing of no-touch thermometers, Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer. If you want to purchase, if you're interested in purchasing and donating disposable masks, you know, I think many of us have seen these. So any of that type of thing would be greatly appreciated. We want to be able to have a supply enough to support, you know, because I've been around education for a little while, and I know kids forget pencils, so I imagine PPE may be one of those things they may forget here and there. So
Sure.
I know adults sometimes, including myself, can be forgetful. So we want to make sure that, well, however it works, that we're going to be safe.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, fire families, thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Mrs. Englert and Mrs. Reynolds. I know I used your first names many times because we're friends.
Thank you for having us.
It's much more fun when I have guests, so I do appreciate that. And to all our fire families, I'm going to end like I always do with stay healthy, stay safe, and stay positive. And stay tuned next week when I have another guest. So. Thank you so much. Continue to ask questions and we'll continue to answer as best we can. God bless.
Thank you.